Hey guys, it's Corinne here from It's So Corinne, and I am so excited that you are here for today's tutorial. Now before we begin, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the It's So Corinne YouTube channel so you get alerts when I make new videos, just like this. And if you would like to see other sewing, crochet, and craft tutorials with step-by-step instructions and snag free printable patterns, be sure to visit my blog at itssocorinne.com. So are you ready to begin? Then let's go make something amazing. Hey guys, for today's tutorial we will be making this super cute crochet cat amigurumi. As you can see, she is adorable, has a cute little bow, cute little tail, and can sit on her own, which I think is super cute. So if you are ready to start your crochet cat, then we need to gather our supplies. The first thing on the list is cotton yarn. Now the one I'm using is Crafter's Secret from Hobby Lobby, which is a weight category 4, and you're going to need cotton yarn in several colors. You're going to need the body, the muzzle, the nose, the bow, and then the smile line. Now I matched my nose to the bow and went super traditional with her muzzle, nose, and mouth line color, but of course you can do anything that you want with your little kitty. So after the yarn, you are going to need a crochet hook. And this crochet hook is a letter B 2.25 millimeter crochet hook. And what I'm using is the Clover crochet hooks with the comfort grip. And if you were looking for a comfortable crochet hook, this one is definitely a winner. Next on the list is a metal yarn needle. Now I do like using a metal yarn needle when I use cotton to make my amigurumi because the cotton is pretty stiff and I've used the plastic needle before and I broke it. So I prefer the metal one. Next on the list is stuffing. You are going to need some sort of polyfill or stuffing. I get on Black Friday and holidays, I get cheap pillows from Walmart or Kohl's, and I take the stuffing out and use that because it is an inexpensive way to get polyfill. Next on the list is 12 millimeter safety eyes, and of course you're going to need two because cats have two eyes. So 12 millimeter safety eyes, or if you prefer, you could always embroidery the eyes on, but I do not like to embroidery, so I use the safety eyes. Next on the list, you're going to need some straight pins, and you're going to need these to attach the parts to the cat's body, and you can pin them to the parts, or I should say pin the parts to the body or the head or whatnot, and it frees up your hands so you can sew them on so you don't have to try to hold and sew all at once. So you need some straight pins. And then lastly, you're going to need a stitch marker. So the crochet cat and all of its parts are crocheted in the round. And so you're going to need to mark the first stitch of every round. So the last thing that you need is a stitch marker. So once you've gathered your supplies, we're ready to begin. To begin the crochet cat, we are going to start with making the body. So to make the body, you are going to make a magic ring. And we're going to insert 6 single crochets into the magic ring. Oops. Okay, so this is 1. And I'm going to put my stitch marker there. Two. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oops, that one got wonky. And 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I have 6 single crochets in my magic ring. What I want to do is, with the tail of the magic ring, you want to pull that tight. Now you don't want to pull it super tight because it's going to make the second row really hard to work in if you do. So I like to pull it, but not pull it completely closed. So what we're going to do is, that's the end of round 1, and you have 6 stitches. So for round 2, we are going to insert 2 single crochets into each of the stitch from the previous round. So that is a single crochet increase where you put 2 single crochets into each stitch. So that's my first one. Move my tail out of the way. And we're going to put a stitch marker into number 1. And then we're going to add another stitch into that. And then we're just adding 2 single crochets into each stitch. And now as you're crocheting each round, you should be counting to make sure that you haven't dropped a stitch or skipped a stitch or anything. For this video, I will not be counting my stitches because for time purposes. Okay, so now we are down to the last stitch of the last round. Okay. And as you can see, because it is cotton, it gets a little tight, but that's fine because we want it tight so that way we don't see the stuffing of the cat. So, and you can see, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can. There's a hole in the middle of this, which is perfectly understandable. So what you're going to do now is you're going to tug on your magic ring tail pretty tightly, and we are going to close that hole. As you can see, it's closing. I'm going to tug on it a little bit more. Just be careful not to break the tail because then you have to redo your first 2 rounds. So there you go. That is the second round and you have 12 stitches. For round 3, we are going to single crochet in the next stitch and then we're going to increase in the next. So where our stitch marker, that is our first stitch. So we're going to single crochet in this first stitch. And then we are going to increase, which is just adding 2, into the next stitch. So 1, 2. And you're going to do that all the way around. You're going to do a single crochet and then an increase. At the end of round 3, you will have 18 stitches. For round 4, we are going to be putting a single crochet into the first 2 stitches. So we're going to do a single crochet, then single crochet, and then an increase. So we're going to do single crochet, increase. And we're going to do this all the way around. So you do single in the next one, single in the next one, and then increase in the next one. At the end of round 4, you will have 24 stitches. For round 5, we are going to do a single crochet in the first 3 stitches. So that's 1. Now we're going to put the second one in the next stitch. So that's 2. And put the third one in the third stitch. And then we're going to add an increase in the next stitch. So we're doing 3 single crochets, then an increase. So single, 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 then increase. And you're gonna do that all the way around. At the end of round 5, you will have 30 stitches. For round 6, we will be putting a single crochet into the next 4 stitches. So that's the first one. Second, third, fourth, and then you're going to increase. So you're going to put a single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches and then increase. So that's my first one. And then put a second one in the next stitch, third one in the next stitch, fourth one in the next stitch, and then an increase into the next stitch. You can do that all the way around. At the end of round 6, you will have 36 stitches. For round 7, we will be putting a single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. So that's my first one. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to put an increase into the next stitch. So you're going to do this all the way around. You're going to put a single in the next 5, and then you're going to do an increase. At the end of round 7, you will have 42 stitches. For round 8, we will be putting a single crochet into each of the next 6 stitches. So that's my first one. And 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then you're going to add an increase. You're going to do that all the way around. You're going to do 6 single crochets. You're going to do a single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches and then an increase. You're going to do that all the way around. At the end of round 8, you will have 48 stitches. For round 9, we will be putting a single crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. So that's my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then you're going to put an increase in the next stitch. You're going to continue that all the way around. A single crochet in the next 7 stitches, then an increase in the 8th stitch. At the end of round 9, you will have 54 stitches, and as you can tell, it's starting to create like a bowl. This is the bottom of the belly, and so it's going to sit like this. So if yours is rounding up like this, that is perfectly normal and intended. For round 10, we will be putting a single crochet into each of the next 8 stitches. So that's my first one. And 2. Oops, I lost my yarn. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then we are going to do an increase in the next stitch. You're going to repeat this all the way around. You're going to put a single crochet into each of the next 8 stitches, and then in the 9th stitch you're going to do an increase. At the end of round 10, you will have 60 stitches. Now for rounds 11 and 12, you are going to just single crochet into every stitch around. So you're going to put a single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. So you're going to do that for round 11 and round 12. At the end of round 11 and 12, you will have 60 stitches for each round. For round 13, we will be putting a single crochet into the next 18 stitches. So 3, 9, 12, 15, 18. So we put a single crochet into each of, oops, move my hook, each of the 18 stitches, the first 18 stitches. And then for the next stitch, we are going to do an invisible decrease. And what that is you're going to insert your hook into just the front loop of the next stitch, and then insert your hook under just the front loop of the next stitch, so the next 2 stitches. So you have the next stitch and then the stitch after that on here. You're going to yarn over and then pull it through
and finish the stitch, and that is your invisible decrease. And you're going to repeat this 2 more times. So you're going to do 18 stitches and then the invisible decrease 2 more times. At the end of round 13, you will have 57 stitches. For round 14, we will be placing a single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. At the end of round 14, you will have 57 stitches. For round 15, we will be placing a single crochet into the first 17 stitches. That's my first one. That's 5. That's 10. That's 15 and 16. And then we have 17. Now for the next stitch, we are going to do an invisible decrease. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to insert it in the front loop of the first stitch, insert it in the front loop of the second stitch, and then we're going to yarn over. And then we have our invisible decrease. And then you're going to repeat that 2 more times. You're going to do 17 single crochet stitches and then an invisible decrease. And so repeat that 2 more times. At the end of round 15, you will have 54 stitches. For round 16, you are going to be placing a single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. At the end of round 16, you will have 54 stitches. For round 17, we will be putting a single crochet into each of the first 16 stitches, which I have already done here. And then after you do that, you are going to put an invisible decrease. So just like the previous decrease rounds, you're going to go underneath the front loop of the first stitch and the front loop of the second stitch. You're going to yarn over and then complete the stitch. So you're going to put a single crochet into each of the first 16 stitches and then an invisible decrease. And then you're going to repeat that 2 more times. A single crochet for 16 stitches and then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 17, you will have 51 stitches. For round 18, you're going to be placing a single crochet into each of the stitches from the previous round. At the end of round 18, you will have 51 stitches. For round 19, we will be putting a single crochet into the first 15 stitches. So that's my 1, 2. Actually, it doesn't look very good. Oops. Redo that one. That's 5. That's 10. And that's 15. And then just like the previous decrease rounds, we are going to insert our hook underneath both the next stitch front loops only, and then do an invisible decrease. So we did a single crochet in each of the 15 stitches and then a invisible decrease. And you're going to repeat that 2 more times. At the end of round 19, you will have 48 stitches. For round 20, you will single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. At the end of round 20, you will have 48 stitches. For round 21, we are going to put a single crochet into each of the first 14 stitches. That's my 1, That's my 5. That's 10. Okay, and then, oops, number 13 did not like it, so we're going to redo that one. This is 13 and 14. And then we are going to do an invisible decrease in the next stitch. Insert it underneath both loops in the next 2 stitches and do an invisible decrease. So you're going to repeat that twice. You're going to do 14 single crochets and then an invisible decrease 2 more times. At the end of round 21, you will have 45 stitches. For round 22, you will single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. At the end of round 22, you will have 45 stitches. For round 23, we will be placing a single crochet into each of the first 13 stitches, which I have already done. So you're going to put a single crochet in each of the 13 stitches, and then you are going to do an invisible decrease. You're going to take the next 2 stitches and go through the front loops only and pull that through, and then do an invisible decrease. So you're going to do 13 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. You're going to repeat that 2 more times. At the end of round 23, you will have 42 stitches. For round 24, we will be putting a single crochet into each of the first 12 stitches, and then we are going to do an invisible decrease. And you're going to repeat that 2 more times. So you're going to put a single crochet in the next 12 and then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 24, you will have 39 stitches. For round 25, we will be putting a single crochet into each of the first 11 stitches, and then we are going to do an invisible decrease. So you're going to repeat that 2 more times. You're going to put a single crochet into each of the next 11 stitches and then an invisible decrease. After round 25, you will have 36 stitches. For round 26, which is our last round, you will place a single crochet into each of the first 10 stitches, and then we will do an invisible decrease. You're going to repeat this 2 more times. Put a single crochet into the next 10 stitches and then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 26, you will have 33 stitches. And all you have left to do to finish this cute body is remove your stitch marker and slip stitch it to the first stitch of round 26. So we're going to do that. We're going to slip stitch that and pull it. And then all you got to do is cut a really long tail so you can sew the body to the head later, and pull it through, cut it and pull it through. And then you can set it aside. You can stuff it now or you can stuff it later, either way, but then put it aside while we make the other parts. To begin the head, you will insert 6 single crochets into a magic ring. So you just want to make your magic ring, and that's just my stay stitch. And you're going to insert 6 single crochet. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and one more makes 6. And then you are going to gently pull on the tail of your magic ring, but don't pull it too tight. You want to close the gap, but you don't want to make it so tight that you can't insert your stitches into the next round. Especially since we're using cotton, the yarn is stiffer. So at the end of round 1, you will have 6 stitches. For round 2, you're going to insert an increase into each stitch of the previous round. So that's my first stitch, and second stitch, and then you'll do that all the way around and increase into each stitch of the previous round. At the end of round 2, you will have 12 stitches. For round 3, you're going to put a single crochet into the first stitch and then an increase in the next stitch. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. You're going to do a single crochet, just like that, and then an increase in the next stitch. And repeat that all the way around. At the end of round 3, you will have 18 stitches. And as you can see, we haven't closed up our magic ring yet. So this is going to be the point where I close it. So you're just wanting to tug on the magic ring tail, but just don't tug on it too hard because you can snap this yarn, and sometimes that means you have to repeat the process and start from scratch. So don't do that. So you just want to tug on it until your hole is practically gone, and then we can continue on to round 4. So for round 4, we are going to be putting a single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches. There's my first one. And then number 2. And then we're going to insert an increase. You're going to do that all the way around. You're going to insert a single crochet into the next, each of the next 2 stitches, and then an increase in the next stitch. At the end of round 4, you will have 24 stitches. For round 5, you are going to insert a single crochet into the first 3 stitches. So that's my first one. And 2, 3, and then an increase. You're going to continue that all around. A single in the next 3, and then an increase. At the end of round 5, you will have 30 stitches. For round 6, we're going to insert a single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then, I'm sure you guessed it, we're going to add an increase into the next stitch. And repeat that around. A single crochet for the next 4 stitches and then an increase. At the end of round 6, you will have 36 stitches. For round 7, we will be inserting a single crochet into each of the first 5 stitches. So that's my 1. And then you're going to insert, that's my 5, and then you're going to insert an increase into the next stitch, and you're going to repeat that all the way around. A single crochet into the next 5 stitches and then an increase into the next stitch. At the end of round 7, you will have 42 stitches. For round 8, we will be inserting a single crochet into each of the first 6 stitches. Okay, that's my 6, and then you're going to insert an increase into the next stitch. And you repeat that around. A single into the next 6 stitches, and then an increase all the way around. At the end of round 8, you will have 48 stitches. For round 9, we are going to insert a single crochet into each of the first 7 stitches, and then we're going to do an increase. Now there's 1. And then we're going to add, that's my 7, and then we're going to add an increase into the next stitch. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. At the end of round 9, you will have 54 stitches. And as you can tell, our piece is starting to round up. It looks more like a little bowl, which is perfectly fine. That's intended because this is the top of the head. And as you can see, this is coming down. So it's becoming that ball head shape. So that is perfectly normal. For round 10, we are going to insert a single crochet into the first 8 stitches, which I have already done to speed up the videoing process. So after the 8 stitches, you're going to insert an increase into the next stitch. So you're going to repeat that all the way around. A single crochet into the next 8 stitches and then an increase. At the end of round 10, you will have 60 stitches. For round 11, you're going to insert a single crochet into the first 9 stitches, which I have already done here. And then after the initial 9, you're going to add an increase. And you're going to repeat this all the way around. You're going to put a single crochet into each of the next 9 stitches and then an increase. At the end of round 11, you will have 66 stitches. For rounds 12 through 21, we are going to insert a single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. She's going to insert a single crochet into every stitch of the previous round for rounds 12 through 21. So you just want to continue doing a single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. At the end of round 21, you will have 66 stitches. You'll have the same amount of stitches for rounds 12 through 21. Now is the time to insert your safety eyes. So all you have to do is count 12 rounds down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Wait, I think I counted that wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so this is my 12th round right here. I don't know if you can see. And this is my 13th round. So we are going to insert the eyes between the 12th and 13th round. And all you're going to do is go in between the stitches. Oops. You know how there's little holes between the stitches? You want to insert it into one of those little holes. And of course you could always embroidery eyes if you prefer. Now with these bigger eyes, you might have to work it in. Just be... You just have to be careful not to hurt the thread. And as you can see from the back, I don't know if you can tell, I'm going between the stitches. You don't want to go through a stitch. Sometimes you just sneeze. Good old-fashioned brute force. Aha! I got it through. Okay. So there's the first one. And it's so cute. And then all we're going to do is I'm going to move it up just a little bit so I can see. And we're going to place these 10 stitches apart. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoops, I lost count. So that's my 10 right here. You just want to insert this one. Same way between the stitches. And of course, like I said, you could always embroidery them. I personally don't like to embroidery eyes. I prefer the safety eyes, but of course you're giving this to a really young child. Embroidery eyes would probably be better. Okay, so once you have your eyes in, you're going to put the little safety caps on the back of them. Make sure that you want to make sure that the yarn is shoved all the way to the front, all the way down to the front. So that I don't know if you can see on mine. See, mine is all the way down, because when you put the safety cap on, the little cap, which is right here, this little safety cap, you want it to be super snug to the eyes so it doesn't wiggle and a kid can't get it out. If you're giving this to a child, if you're giving it to an adult, it's not as important, but nobody likes jiggly eyes. So after you have added your eyes, super cute. Look, her face is coming together. So cute. So after you've added your safety eyes, we can move on to round 22. Now for round 22, you're going to insert a single crochet into each of the first 9 stitches, which I have already done to save time. And then after that, you're going to do an invisible decrease. You're going to go through the first loop of the first stitch, and you're going to go through the front, I'm sorry, not the first loop. You're going to go through the front loop of the first stitch. And then the front loop of the second stitch. And you're going to yarn over and finish your stitch. So you're going to do a single crochet in the next 9 stitches and then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 22, you will have 60 stitches. For round 23, we are going to add a single crochet into each of the first 8 stitches, which I have already done here. And then you're going to insert an invisible decrease. So just like before, under the front loop of the first stitch and under the front loop of the second stitch. Oops. Make sure you catch all the threads. And then yarn over and complete. And you're going to repeat this all the way around. Put a single crochet in the next 8 stitches, then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 23, you will have 54 stitches. For round 24, we're going to put a single crochet into the first 7 stitches, and then we're going to do an invisible decrease. So just like before, you can go through the front loops of the next 2 stitches. And then you're going to repeat this all the way around. You're going to do a single crochet in the next 7 and then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 24, you will have 48 stitches. For round 25, we are going to put a single crochet into each of the first 6 stitches, which I have already done. And then we're going to, I know you're going to be surprised, but we're going to do an invisible decrease next. And you're going to repeat this all the way around. A single crochet in the next 6 stitches and then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 25, you will have 42 stitches. And as you can tell, it's starting to taper down, which is exactly what we want because the head is round. So it's starting to look super cute. So for round 26, we are going to put a single crochet into the first 5 stitches, and then we're going to do an invisible decrease, and we're going to repeat this all the way around. We're going to do a single crochet in the next 5 stitches, and then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 26, you will have 36 stitches. For round 27, you're going to insert a single crochet into the each of the first 4 stitches, and then you're going to do an invisible decrease, and you're going to repeat that all the way around. You're going to do a single crochet in then each of the next 4 stitches and then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 27, you will have 30 stitches. For round 28, you're going to put a single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches and then put an invisible decrease. So I've already done the 3 and then invisible decrease. You're going to do that all the way around. At the end of round 28, you will have 24 stitches. For round 29, you are going to insert a single crochet into the next 2 stitches, which I have already done, and then you're going to put an invisible decrease in the next 2 stitches. So you're going to do the front stitch of the next stitch and then the front stitch of the second stitch, and 2 will become 1. You're going to repeat that all the way around. You're going to do a single crochet into the next 2 stitches and then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 29, you will have 18 stitches. And once you finish round 29, you're going to stuff your cat head, which I obviously have already done. You can decide how stuffed you want your cat head to be. I liked my Amigurumi very stuffed, so I put a lot of stuffing in this. I think it weighs like 5 pounds. But so you want to go ahead and do that because it's going to be very difficult as we continue to stuff. So now is the time. For round 30, we are going to put a single crochet into the next stitch. And it gets a little bit tricky here just because of the stuffing. So you want to take your finger and shove it down as you're crocheting. And then you're going to do an invisible decrease. You're going to repeat that all the way around. A single crochet in the next stitch and then an invisible decrease, and try to keep the stuffing out of the way as you crochet. At the end of round 30, you will have 12 stitches. And guys, we are on to the last round of the cat head. Yay us! So for round 31, we are going to insert a decrease into each of the stitches around. So we're going to make each of the 2 stitches, the next 2 stitches, a decrease. And we're going to decrease all the way around for round 31. At the end of round 31, you will have 6 stitches. And all you want to do is cut your working yarn and leave a little bit of a tail so we can sew this. And then you want to pull your yarn out and thread it through a yarn needle. And what we are going to do is we are going to close up this hole right here. So all you want to do is insert your needle into the front stitch, the front loop I should say, of the first stitch. And you're going to make sure your tail's not in the way. And you're going to pull it. And we're going to do that through all 6 of them. So that was 1, this is 2. And as you're doing it, you want to gently pull. You see how the hole is getting closer with each stitch that I go? I totally lost count. So I think this is 5. That's fine. I'm just going through the front loop of each of the last stitches. I think I might have gone 1 too many, but that's okay. So you're going to tug on it, and as you can see, my hole is closing. So you just want to give it a gentle tug, and I like to push down as I tug, so that way it doesn't hurt my stitches. And then we are going to insert your needle straight through the center, that hole that we just closed. And you're going to make it come out the side through one of the holes between the stitches. You don't want to go through a stitch. So you're going to pull that. And then again, I like to take my thumb and push it as I pull it to the side. Gentle, and then I like, since this is cotton, I like to massage it so that way it goes down flat. Although this doesn't really matter if it's flat on this particular piece because we're going to sew the body right here. So if yours is a little poochy, that is not a big deal for this. So all you're going to do is tie a knot into your yarn, and you're going to shove it back through that hole that you just came out of, and you're going to come out another hole further up, and you're going to make sure your knot went in, and then I massage that hole, and then you're going to pull this as you cut it, and it should snap. The piece that's there should snap back into the hole. If it doesn't, that's fine. You can massage it to make sure it goes in, or you can take the end of your yarn needle, and I don't even see mine, but if it was sticking out, you can take the end of your yarn needle and just shove it back into it. So then you have the cat head complete. It's so cute. I love it. And so you can set this aside while we make the other parts. To begin the arm, we are going to make a magic ring, and then we are going to insert 6 single crochet into the magic ring. So here is my first. I'm just going to mark that in there. Two, 3, okay, and then this is my 6th one in the magic ring. So you see I have all 6. So we're just going to pull the magic ring, but we're not going to pull super tight because, oops, my stitch marker popped out. We're not going to pull super tight because if you do, the next round would be hard to get in. So what we're going to do after we finish round 1 with 6 single crochets, we are going to increase in each stitch that we just put. So for round 2, you're going to put an increase into each of the 6 stitches from the last round. So we're going to go into the first stitch, I'm just going to go ahead and mark my first stitch here. So it is, we add 2 single crochets into the first single crochet. And then we're going to do that all the way around. You're going to add 2 single crochets to each stitch from round 1. At the end of round 2, you will have 12 stitches. For round 3, we are going to put a single crochet into the first stitch right here. And then you're going to put an increase in the next stitch. And of course, an increase is just 2 stitches. So you're going to put 1 single crochet and then 2 single crochet into the same stitch. And you're going to repeat that. You're going to do a single in the next stitch and then an increase in the next. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. At the end of round 3, you will have 18 stitches. Now, you can go ahead and pull your magic ring closed by taking this loose end and pulling it tight and close that hole right here, which I probably need to tug a little bit harder. Now you want to tug, but you don't want to pull too hard because you can snap this yarn, and that is not good. So there you see I've closed up my hole here, and I usually wait until round 2 or 3 to do that, just to make it easier to put the stitches that we're putting in, and so it's not too tight. So once we have finished round 3, we'll have 18 stitches, and then we're going to go to round 4, and all you're going to do is put a single crochet into the first stitch and then a single crochet in the second stitch, and then you're going to put an increase in the next stitch. And you're going to repeat that around. You're going to put a single, single, then increase. At the end of round 4, you will have 24 stitches. For rounds 5 through 8, we are going to put a single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. So you'll do a single crochet in the first stitch, and then a single crochet in each of the 24 stitches from the previous round. And you'll do this for rounds 5, 6, 7, and 8. At the end of round 8, you will have 24 stitches. So you'll have 24 for rounds 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now we're going to move on to round 9. And all I'm going to do is take this magic ring tail, the beginning tail, and shove it down into the bottom of the arm. And for round 9, we are going to put a single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches. There's my first one. And then there's my second one. And then we're going to put an invisible decrease. And if you've never done an invisible decrease before, all you're going to do is go into the front loop of the first stitch. Then you're going to go into the front loop of the second stitch. So you can see that there's first stitch, second stitch. And then you're going to yarn over, pull it through, and then finish the stitch. You repeat that all the way around. You're going to do a single crochet, and then an invisible decrease. You repeat that all the way around. At the end of round 9, you will have 18 stitches. For rounds 10, 11, and 12, we're going to single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. So just put a single crochet in the first, and then a single crochet into each stitch of the previous round, and we're going to do this for rounds 10, 11, and 12. At the end of round 12, you will have 18 stitches. So you have 18 stitches for rounds 10, 11, and 12. For round 13, we are going to add a single crochet to the first stitch, and then we're going to do an invisible decrease. So again, you just go into the front loop of the first stitch, the front loop of the second stitch, yarn over, and then finish your stitch. You're going to do that all the way around. You're going to do a single crochet and then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 13, you will have 12 stitches. And then this is the time that we are going to stuff the arm, at least a little bit. So we're just going to stuff some in there. And of course, it depends on how full you want to fill your arm. I mean, you don't want to go crazy here because we're going to add some more in a little bit. But I do like to stuff my body parts pretty firmly, especially if you're gonna have your finished cat sitting. I like for her parts to be really stuffed so they sit better and they form better. So you can see down here how good this looks because I've stuffed it super full. So once you've stuffed at least the bottom part, we can continue on to round 14 through 16, which is just simply a single crochet in each stitch around. So you're going to put a stitch in each stitch of the previous round. Oops, my yarn didn't like that. And you're going to do this for rounds 14, 15, and 16. At the end of round 16, you will have 12 stitches. So 12 stitches for 14, 15, and 16. And this is the part where I like to finish stuffing my arm, because we are about to do the last round and we're going to decrease. So there's no better time than right now to finish stuffing your arm. And like I said, I like to stuff my arm pretty full. But if you would like to have softer arms, you can definitely do that too. Just a little bit more. I can finish this little arm up. Okay, looks pretty good. So what we're going to do is start round 17. And for round 17, we are just going to do an invisible decrease all the way around. So you're going to go on the first stitch and the second stitch and then pull through. And you're going to continue this all the way around. At the end of round 17, you will have 6 stitches. So what we are going to do now is remove the stitch marker, and then you are going to cut your yarn, the working side yarn, and you see I left quite a bit because we are going to use this later to sew onto the body of the cat. So all you're going to do is you're going to pull this out, as long as your yarn doesn't get all twisted like mine. Okay, and then you're going to get a yarn needle, thread your yarn, and what we are going to do is my yarn doesn't want to obey me. There we go. We are going to sew through the front loop of all 6 of our stitches from the last round. So you're just going to go through the first one, and the next one, and you're going to do this all the way around. And some people go through both loops. I personally like going through the first loop. If you think it looks better going through both loops, more power to you. This is just the way that I do it, and I like the way it looks when I'm finished. So after you have gone through every loop, which I may have gone through more than 6, but it doesn't really matter, you're going to pull it tight, and now you see that the hole is closed right here, and I'm going to shove my needle into the center of that hole, and I'm going to work my needle down through the the arm, sorry, and then come out one of the holes. Make sure you're not going through the yarn, you're going through an open hole between the stitches. Okay, and I'm going to pull this, and I'm going to pull it closed. And again, you want to pull tightly, but you don't want to pop your yarn because that would be very, very sad right now. So, and then I just work it. I work it down, especially with the cotton because it's stiffer. So I just work it down, and then your arm is finished. Ta-da! And so you're just going to take your needle off, put that aside, and then repeat the process to make 2. And then once you have 2, you can set those aside while you're making the other parts. Now we're going to move on to making the leg for the cat. So to begin, for round 1, you are going to be putting 6 single crochets into a magic ring. So we have 1. Oops, my thread got a little wonky. There we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So all we're going to do is pull the tail to the magic ring, but we're not going to pull it super tight, just like the other pieces that we made. Oops, just popped off my hook. Okay. Let's pull this a little bit more. Okay, so at end of round 1, oops, put it back on camera so you can see it. At the end of round 1, you will have 6 stitches. For round 2, we will be putting an increase into each stitch of the previous round. So put an increase into each stitch of the previous round for round 2. At the end of round 2, you will have 12 stitches. For round 3, you are going to put a single crochet into the first stitch, and then you're going to put an increase in the next stitch. And we're going to repeat this all the way around. So you're going to put a single crochet into the first stitch, and then an increase into the next stitch. And you repeat that all the way around. At the end of round 3, you will have 18 stitches. And as you can see, I still have a hole in the center of my little leg. So I'm going to go ahead and tug on the magic ring tail while I hold the piece in my other hand. I'm going to pull that until it closes. Oh, that looks pretty good. Just make sure to not tug it too much or you'll break the yarn. So, and there you see I've closed up the hole, and we can move on to round 4. For round 4, we will be putting a single crochet into the first stitch and the second stitch. So you can put a single crochet into the first 2 stitches. Put my stitch marker so I don't have to guess where my first one was. And then the next stitch you're going to put an increase. You repeat that all the way around. A single crochet into the next 2 stitches and then an increase. At the end of round 4, you will have 24 stitches. For round 5, we will be putting a single crochet into the first 3 stitches of the last round. So there's my first. Alright, so we're going to put a single, a single, a single, and then an increase. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. You're going to put a single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches and then an increase. At the end of round 5, you will have 30 stitches. Now for rounds 6 through 9, you will be putting a single crochet stitch into each stitch of the previous round. So you'll have 30 stitches for each of the rounds from 6, 7, 8, and 9. At the end of rounds 6 through 9, you will have 30 stitches. For round 10, we will start decreasing the leg. So you are going to insert a single crochet into the first 3 stitches. That's my first. Second and third. And then you're going to insert a invisible decrease by just going through the front loops of the next 2 stitches. You're going to repeat that all the way around. You're going to do a single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 10, you will have 24 stitches. For rounds 11 and 12, you will put a single crochet into each of the stitches from the previous rounds. At the end of round 11 and 12, you will have 24 stitches. For round 13, we will be putting a single crochet into the first 2 stitches. That's 1, and that's 2, and then an invisible decrease into the front loops on the next 2 stitches, and you're going to repeat that all the way around. You're going to do a single crochet into the next 2 stitches and then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 13, you will have 18 stitches. For round 14, we are going to be putting a single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. At the end of round 14, you will have 18 stitches. For round 15, we will be putting a single crochet into the next stitch and then an invisible decrease. I get my stitch marker. There we go. So we have the single crochet and then an invisible decrease, and we're going to repeat this all the way around. At the end of round 15, you will have 12 stitches. Now this is the time to stuff your leg. So you need to stuff it as full as you would like it. I like my crochet animal parts really full, so I like to stuff a lot. And as you can see, I just use the end of my crochet hook, just shove it down in there. And of course you can add a little bit more as we go in the last few rounds, but at one point it does become impossible to add more, so I like to add as much as I like now. Okay, I'm just taking the crochet hook on my finger and shoving it down. Of course you could use the end of a pencil, that would work too, or if you had a turning tool for sewing, I think that would work really well too. They might actually make something for like to use for this, but I don't like having more tools than I need. Who has the space? So okay, that feels pretty stuffy. So I like how full my little leg is. So we're going to continue on to round 16 and 17, which is putting a single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. And as you go, you may have to push down the stuffing just a little bit to get to your stitches, because you don't want to hook it with your hook. If you do, that's fine. Just pull out your stitch and stuff the stuffing back into it. At the end of round 16 and 17, you will have 12 stitches. And now is the moment that if you want to stuff your leg a little bit more, that you need to do that right now. Like right now. Because the next round is our last round. And so it'll be closed up. So I did go ahead and shove some more stuffing into my leg, because like I said, I like the body parts super solid, especially if they're going to sit on a table or shelf or whatnot, because once this is sewn on, it's like super sturdy and holds her chubby little body. So I do like my body parts super sturdy, but if you prefer softer, you can definitely do that. So for round 18, we will be inserting a invisible decrease around the entire round. Around the entire round. Oh, my yarn got jabberwocky. Okay, there we go. That's my first one. And then we're just going to repeat that all the way around. And like I said previously, you may have to shove the stuffing down away from your hook. I just take the end of my hook and shove it down and compress it, because later on, once you're finished, we can play with it and get it back up to the top. So you just want to put an invisible decrease all the way around. at the end of round 18, you will have 6 stitches. So all you want to do is cut your working yarn away from your yarn ball, and we are going to remove the stitch marker and pull the yarn out. And what we are going to do is we're going to close up this little hole at the top. So you need a yarn needle. I really prefer a metal one, especially if you're using cotton yarn like I am, because cotton yarn is super sturdy, and I have broke a plastic yarn needle in cotton yarn, so I always use metal. So all we want to do is go underneath the front loop of the last 6 stitches. So that's my first one, and I like to pull it as I go. So that's 1, that's 2. I'm just going underneath the front loop. 3, 4, it's my 5, and then my 6. Usually along the way when I do this, it tends to happen that I forget how many I've done. So I just go until the hole is closed. And then you want to pull it and see how, see if you can see on camera, see how it's closed up. But we are going to get it even better because we are going to shove our needle right into the center, the little pooch. And you're going to shove your needle down. You're going to come out between a stitch. Do not come out through a stitch. Come out between a stitch. Otherwise you'll hurt that stitch. So you just want to pull your yarn. You see how it's still a little poochy? I like to take my thumb and pull this, but pull it gently because you don't want to break this yarn, guys, because that is a pain in the rear. Okay, so just pull that, and then I like to play with it so it gets even further down, especially with the cotton. Sometimes you have to manhandle it because it is sturdier than if you're using one of the other softer yarns. Okay, so you see my hole is closed right here. It looks good. And then I like to roll and play with it until I get the stuffing where I want it and the shape I want. And of course, if you don't do that now, you could always do it when you add it to the body later. Okay, once you've done that, you're going to leave this long tail just as it is, because we are going to use this tail to sew it to the body later. So we don't want to finish off. We want to leave that. And then once you have made one leg, go and repeat the process for the second leg. To make the ear, you are going to make a magic ring. And then we are going to put 6 single crochets into the magic ring. That's my first, and we're going to mark that. I'm going to close it so it doesn't pop off. Oops. I lost track there for a minute. Okay, so now we have 6 single crochet in your magic ring, and you can pull that tight, but just like with all the other magic rings that we made, we aren't going to pull it all the way. And sometimes you just want to work the stitches so that way they're turned the right way, especially with cotton, because cotton is stiffer. Sometimes you have to convince the stitches to do what you want. So at the end of round 1, you will have 6 single crochets, and for round 2 we are going to single crochet into the first stitch. Come on. Okay, and then you're going to place an increase into the next stitch. So that's our single, and then we're going to do an increase, which is just 2 single crochets. And you're going to do that around. So you do a single, and then an increase, a single, and then an increase. Okay, so at the end of round 2, you will have 9 stitches. And as you can see, this starts to turn up, but that's okay. You can just push it out, make it pooch out. Okay, and I'm still not going to pull onto my magic ring until we get to round 3, because I want to make sure that this doesn't get too tight as we're adding our stitches. So for round 3, we are going to add a single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches. That's 1. And that's 2. And then we're going to add an increase. And you're going to do that all the way around. You're going to do a single into the next stitch, a single in the next stitch, and then an increase in the next stitch. At the end of round 3, we will have 12 stitches. Now, since we finished round 3, I'm going to tug on my magic ring tail right here while holding the stitches. You're going to do it firmly, but you don't want to pull too hard because then you'll snap your yarn. So as you can see, I've closed the hole in the top. So we can go on to round 4. And for round 4, we are going to add a single crochet into each of the first 3 stitches. So there's my first one. And then second single crochet, third single crochet, and then an increase. And you're going to do that all the way around. A single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, and then a increase. At the end of round 4, you will have 15 stitches. For round 5, we will single crochet into the first 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to increase in the next stitch. And you repeat that all the way around. A single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches, and then an increase. At the end of round 5, you will have 18 stitches. For round 6, we are going to put a single crochet into each of the first 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to put an increase in the next stitch. And you repeat that all the way around. A single crochet in each of the next 5 crochet stitches, and then an increase. At the end of round 6, you will have 21 stitches. For round 7, we are going to put a single crochet into each of the first 6 stitches. That's 2, that's 4, and then this, that's 6. And then we're going to add an increase in the next stitch. You repeat that around. A single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then an increase in the next stitch. At the end of round 7, you will have 24 stitches. For round 8, you're going to put a single crochet into each stitch of the last round. So you're just going to add a single crochet into each of the 24 stitches from round 7. After you have finished round 8, you will have 24 stitches. Now all you're going to do is slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, like so, and then you're going to leave a long tail for sewing. You're going to cut it, and you're going to pull it through. And then you're going to repeat this process for the second ear. Now, if this little tail drives you nuts, you can just cut it. Just don't cut it super close, because now that it's shorter, you can tuck it in there when you sew it. So you're going to repeat the process, make a second ear, and then set them aside while you make the other parts. To make the tail, we will be adding 6 single crochets into a magic ring. There's the one. Okay, just making sure. I lost track. So once you do the 6 single crochets into the magic ring, you're going to pull the magic ring tail and pull the stitches closer to each other. Now you might have to play with them to get them to lay down, but that's okay. And just like all the other parts, we're not going to pull it completely closed yet to make it easier to insert the next stitches. So at the end of round 1, you will have 6 stitches. For round 2, we will be putting an increase in each stitch of the previous round. So you put an increase into each of the 6 stitches that we just did. So I'm going to, see, this is why I don't close it all the way, because even if you don't, it's a little difficult to get in just because it's the first round and it's cotton. So if you have a little bit of trouble at the beginning, that's totally okay, just because it's tight, which we want, because we don't want to have the stuffing come out. And I like the way that it feels when the cat is finished, because the cotton is so sturdy. She sits really well. So I've inserted an increase into the first stitch, and you're going to insert an increase into each of the next 5 stitches. At the end of round 2, you will have 12 stitches. For round 3, we are going to insert a single crochet into the next 5 stitches. So that's 2. Okay, so that's 5, and then we're going to do an increase, and then we're going to repeat that one more time. You're going to put a single crochet into the next 5 stitches and then an increase. At the end of round 3, we will have 14 stitches, and now this is the round that we are going to close up the hole in the middle of the tail. So just like before, you just want to pull on the tail while holding the piece, and don't pull too hard because you can snap that yarn. So, oh, that looks really good. But bam, that is done. And then for rounds 4 through 6, we are going to put a single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. At the end of rounds 4 through 6, you will have 14 stitches. For round 7, you are going to insert a single crochet into the next 12 stitches, which is almost all the stitches of the round. And then you're going to do an invisible decrease. So 12 single crochet stitches and then an invisible decrease. At the end of round 7, you will have 13 stitches. And then for round 8, we are going to be putting a single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. At the end of round 8, you will have 13 stitches. For round 9, you will single crochet into the first 11 stitches and then do an invisible decrease. At the end of round 9, you will have 12 stitches. For round 10, we are going to single crochet all the way around into each stitch. You're going to place a single crochet. At the end of round 10, you will have 12 stitches. Round 11, we are going to single crochet into the first 10 stitches and then do an invisible decrease. At the end of round 11, you will have 11 stitches, and as you can see, we are starting to taper down the tail. So that way, this is the big part, and this is going to be the small part that tapers down and attaches to the body. It's going to be super cute. So for round 12, we are going to single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. At the end of round 12, you will have 11 stitches. For round 13, we are going to single crochet into the first 9 stitches and then do an invisible decrease. At the end of round 13, you will have 10 stitches. And I'm sure you've guessed, but for round 14, we are going to insert a single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. At the end of round 14, you will have 10 stitches. Now this is the round that you want to stuff your tail. And I know it's a little bit tight, but it should have just enough space for you to shove some stuffing with your crochet hook into it. And just like before, you want to stuff it as full as you like it. And then we can move on to the next round. And really, now is the only time to stuff this because I'm sure you've already seen that it's gotten pretty tight at the opening. So the next round is going to make it even tighter because we are going to close it. Oh my gosh, that is so cute. And I'm in love with this yarn. The color transitions are so cute. This yarn is from Hobby Lobby. It is their in-house cotton. I absolutely love their cotton yarn. Okay. Let's see if I can get all this in there. Okie dokie. Woohoo! Success. Okay, so for the next round, round 15, we are going to put a single crochet into the first 3 stitches. And then we're going to do an invisible decrease. And we're going to repeat this 2 times. So a single crochet in the first 3, and then invisible decrease, and then repeat that. 3 single crochets and invisible decrease. At the end of round 15, you will have 8 stitches. So for round 16, what we are going to do is we are going to play with this and flatten it. Okay? So we're going to have our, over here, our working yarn over here. And we are going to insert our hook into both sides of the piece. So the front and the back. So we have flattened it. See if you can see that. We have flattened it. And then we're going to pull the yarn through. And then we're going to single crochet. You're going to do the next for the next stitch. You're going to go through that stitch and the back stitch. See how my needle goes in the front to the back and yarn over. And then we're going to single crochet and then do the last one. So we are going to end up with 3 single crochets. Let's see if I can get that clear on the camera. Okay, so you can see. So there's the side of the tail. And then that's the top. So all we did is finish it off. Instead of making it like we did with the leg where it has a pointy top, we are making it flat. So this is going to sit on the back of the body, and this is going to be a better surface for us to sew to because it is flat. So once you have done that, you can congratulate yourself because the tail is complete. Woohoo! Yay you! Yay me! And all you want to do is cut your working yarn and pull that through and make sure that you cut quite a bit so that way we can sew it to the body. And so once you have finished this, you can set it aside and make all your other parts. To make the bow, you are going to make a magic ring. You don't want it too small because we're going to add all of our bow stitches into the magic ring before we pull it. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to chain 4. And then we are going to add 4 treble crochets into the magic ring. And treble crochet, you just wrap it around your hook twice. And then yarn over. So there's my first treble. So for a treble, you're going to wrap it around your hook twice, insert to magic ring, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over the first 2, yarn over the next 2, pull it through the next 2, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2. So that's my second one. So I'm going to speed it up so you don't have to sit there and watch me. Okay, that's my third. Okay, and then this is my fourth. I'm getting a little stuck. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I have the chain 4 and then 4 treble crochets. And then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to insert that into the magic ring and slip stitch it. Oh, I didn't pull all the way through. Oops. Oopsie. Okay, let's try this again. So we're going to slip stitch. Here we go. And that is going to be our first side of the bow. I don't know if you can tell because this pink doesn't film very well. But that's going to be our first side of the bow. Now I am going to pull the tail of the magic ring just a little bit. So that way I have more working space away from the tail. Okay, there we go. And so what we're going to do is do the other side. So we are going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to insert 4 treble crochets. Oh, wait. That wasn't a treble. That was a double. Treble crochets into the magic ring. Trying to get my hands out of the way so you can see, but it's a little hard because you need all of your hands to do this. Now, I tend to crochet really tightly, which is why sometimes I have trouble getting the needle, the yarn hook through. But I always manage it. Okay, I lost count because I was talking. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. Okay, so we have our 4 trebles on the other side, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we are going to slip stitch that into the magic ring as well. And right now, I know it looks a little bit wonky because you're like, what? How is that a bow? So this is, it's like magic. If you think about it, pulling on the magic ring tail, you just want to gently pull it. I'm going to make this bigger so I don't lose it. There we go. So magic ring tail, you're going to pull it. And I like to hold my stitches and play with my stitches as we're doing this. And just pull it tight. And again, don't pull too tight because you don't want to pop it. And then play with your stitches to get them in the right spots. But y'all, do you see what I see? It's the beginnings of a bow. It's so cute. I love bows. So I like to put them on my amigurumi. So what we are going to do is we are going to cut our working yarn, and you're going to cut it pretty long because we are going to wrap this around the center of the bow, but we're also going to use it to sew it to the cat later. And of course, the bow is completely optional. You don't have to add a bow to your cat if your cat prefers no bow or your cat is a boy. So you're just going to flatten it out and you're going to fasten off. I pulled my yarn out, my working yarn, and this is the tail. So let's keep the tail to the side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap the yarn around the center of the bow. It doesn't matter which way you go. For some reason I always go from the top, but you don't have to. And just pull it tight to make that little, I don't know what you would call it, but it smushes it down so that way the bow looks more bow-like. But you do that by just pulling this yarn tight as you're pulling. So you don't have to put a ton in the front around it. you can put as little or as much as you want in the middle. And then once you've done that, what I like to do is get a needle yarn, not needle yarn, a yarn needle. Let's reverse that. A yarn needle, and load up my yarn onto it, and then make sure that you have it where you want it. Make sure the front doesn't look wonky or anything. And from the back, I like to go underneath all that yarn that I just twisted around the bow. And then you want to pull that. And what we're doing is securing this on the back. So, and then I like to go around to make it secure because, oh snap, that didn't work. That went around my front. That's not good. Don't do that. Avoid doing that. In this way, so that way, while you're sewing it to the cat, you don't have to worry about the front coming undone. Of course, if you do this, I might have to pull it off and redo it, but so you get the idea. So once you do that, you do it around and pull it tight like that. Of course, you could always knot it too and shove the knot underneath, but because you're never going to see it, because once this is on the cat, you're not going to see the back at all, like right here. So you could even knot it if you were worried. Then you can just leave this long tail as you set it aside as it waits to be put onto the cat's head. To begin the muzzle, you are going to insert 6 single crochets into a magic ring. Okay, and then you are going to pull the tail. Oh, that one doesn't look right. Once you get your 6 in, you're going to pull your magic tail to close the hole. Okay, that looks better. Okay, you play with your stitches for them to lay down as you do this. Okay, and then you are going to have 6 stitches for round 1. For round 2, you're going to put an increase into each stitch of the previous round. So add an increase into each stitch of the previous round. At the end of round 2, you will have 12 stitches. For round 3, you're going to put a single crochet into the first stitch. And then you're going to put, let me get my stitch marker, an increase into the next stitch. And then you're going to put 3 single crochets into the next stitch. And then we are going to do single crochet, then an increase, then a single crochet, and an increase. And then once more we're going to do single crochet, increase, okay, and then the next stitch we are going to add 3 single crochets into the same stitch. Then we're going to do a single crochet and then an increase. And I know that that was extremely wonky because there is no set rhythm, but the reason why it's designed this way is so that way it's like oblong, because I didn't want the cat's muzzle to just be a circle because real cats aren't that way. So I made it, because it's gonna be like this, I wanted it kind of like oval, so like this. So this is this part where you can take your magic ring tail and you can pull it tight, so that way you can close up the hole in the middle of the muzzle. There you go. Okay, so after round 3, you will have 21 stitches. So round 4, all we're going to do is single crochet into each stitch of the previous round. At the end of round 4, you will have 21 stitches. And all you have to do to finish the muzzle is go into the first stitch of the round and slip stitch it. Like that. And then you want to cut your working yarn and leave a long tail. And then we're just going to pull this through. And what I like to do on the muzzle is take your needle, and then you can see down here, I just like to put it through the next stitch beside it and then pull it to the back like so, and then play with it like this, and then you have the muzzle completed and it's ready for us to add the nose and the mouth to it. Once you have your muzzle crocheted, we are ready to sew on the nose and the mouth. So all you're going to do is, this is our working yarn that we had. This is the end right here. So I'm going to put that to the bottom. So it's going to be down to the bottom. And this is round 1 right here, where that little circle is. See if you can see it. So we are going to start right above round 1, in between round 1 and round 2, right dead center. And you're going to take your pink, and it's not going to be hooked to a yarn ball. You want to cut a length of yarn for this. And what I like to do is pull it, but leave a tail so we can tie it together in a minute. And so all you're going to do is you're going to insert your yarn needle into the round 3, between round 3 and 4 right here. In total, you want your nose to be about 4 stitches wide. So if you count up, I would be counting up here in this 4th row. So for me, that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. So my first poke is going to be right here. And you're just going to pull it. And that is the first stitch of the nose, y'all. And then you're going to come back to the exact same hole that we started in right here, and you're going to go beside that yarn. Do not go through the yarn because this will mess it up. So you're going to go beside the yarn, and you're going to pull it tight, and then you're just going to repeat the process. You're going to, and you want to make sure that you're holding this tail. You want to make sure that you're holding that, at least for the beginning. So you can just pinch it, not pinch it, but like hold it all together like a little sandwich. Okay, so then that's our next string right there, yarn right beside it. So then we're going to go back into the hole, making sure that we are not going through yarn. And then we are going to move across. So we're going to put this right beside it. Right there. Sometimes this becomes a little difficult. Just want to use something to poke it. Gotta have some leverage sometimes. Okay, and then you're just going to continue this all the way across. And like I said, I usually do 4 stitches wide, but I count from this row right here, round 4 right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So my nose is going to go from here to here. Once you have finished embroidering your nose, all you need to do is take your 2 pink tails and double knot it. So you just want to tie them together twice and then cut the strings so that way they're not bulky behind the muzzle when we sew it later. And then what you're going to do is cut a length of black yarn, and we are going to take the needle up through the center of the magic ring hole, so just the center of the muzzle, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pull it through, and we're going to leave a black tail, this right here, so that way you don't want to pull it all the way through. So you want to hold that and hold the muzzle. That's what I do. And then so we're in that center hole, and what you're going to do is insert it into the base of the nose right there. And you pull that through, making sure that you don't go through any yarn that's in the back. And I know this looks like a mess, but we're going to clean it up in a little bit. So you're going to do that. So that's the first line. Super cute. And then we're going to take our needle and go back through that center hole, making sure to not go through the yarn, but go beside it. And then, oh my gosh, I'm getting all tangled up in the back. Okay, there we go. We'll make sure we don't pull any of the other yarns through. Okay, so we have the first line right here, and then we're at the base of that line, and then you're just going to go down to the next round, and you're going to poke it through. And of course, you could always make the mouth and nose any way you want. This is how I've made it and designed it, but you can make it any way you want because this is your cat's, either for you or as a gift or to sell or whatever, but the cat should reflect you. So if you want to do something different, go for it. So there's the line right there. And then all we're going to do is we're going to go out just a little bit, like right beside it. And sometimes you have to go through the stitches. I know usually I tell you, go beside the stitches. But for this, sometimes you have to go through the stitches in order to get the mouth where you want it. So that is perfectly okay. Just try not to go through the actual yarn and make it all wonky. So let's see, where's my, I'm trying to keep all this out of the way. Okay, so once I've gone right here, because I like it right here, I'm going to go back through that hole. And then we're going to see how that looks. Oh, that looks cute. Okay, so she's going to have a little smirk, like a little smug smirk. Okay, and then we're going to repeat it. We're going to go to the other side. And we're going to get this all untangled. So this is a practice in patience. And we're going to go back in that hole. Let's see. And sometimes I do these mouths and they come out perfect the first time. Sometimes I hate them and I have to rip them out and do them like 12 times. See, I'm not in love with that mouth. So what I'm going to do is just gently pull up the yarn. Like so. Which is what's nice about embroidering with yarn, is you don't really have to worry too much. As long as you go underneath the yarn, you can pull it out. So I am going to redo the mouth because I didn't like it where it was. Okay, let's see. Where was it earlier? We're going to try... I'm going to try it right here. Let's see. Give her a bigger smile. See if we like this one better. I'm trying to hold all the yarns out of the way. Oh, yes. That definitely looks better. Okay, where is the equal to that? Over here. This is what I like about crochet and even being creative, is if you don't like something, you can customize it. So if you don't like what I'm doing, make it your own. So I love that. Okay, that is a way cuter mouth, y'all. Oh yeah, look how cute. She got a little smirk. I might want to make this one to go out a little bit more, but once you have sewn your nose and your mouth, you're ready to start assembling your cat. We can put this on the head and put all its parts together and make her complete. To start assembling your kitty cat, we need to first clean up all of these yarns on our muzzle. And as you can see, I did redo this side of the mouth because I didn't like it. So it took a little bit of time to fuss with it, but I finally got it to where I want it, and I think it looks so cute. So if you don't get the mouth right, the first time, second time, fifth time, just keep trying, and eventually you'll get something you like. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean up this yarn mess. So remember we tied the pink ones earlier. So we are going to cut these. You don't want to cut them super short, but you also want them short enough so we can hide them behind when we sew the muzzle onto the head. And so the black ones I hadn't tied yet because I wasn't happy about the mouth. So what we're going to do is tie them now. So we're just going to tie them together. You see what I'm doing? I'm just going to shorten this. This is way too long. I always overestimate when I cut yarn, which I probably lose a lot of yarn that way because I always overestimate how much I need, which I guess is good because I never like sew things together and I'm like, oh, I ran out, because I always am overzealous. Okay, so I tied the the two black ones together, and just make sure that the mouth still looks good after you've done that. And so we're going to cut this one as well. Cut those, not super short, just like we did the pink. And then this one is the magic ring tail. So I'm just going to pull that tight to make sure that we didn't mess it up by using it with the muzzle. And then I'm just going to tie, oh my goodness, everything wants to be in everyone's business. Okay, so I'm just going to tie a knot down here. It's real close. And then cut that. And look how much cleaner that looks, y'all. So the only yarn left is this bottom yarn that we left really long, because we are going to sew the muzzle to the head. So for placement on the head, I went ahead and counted, but it is the 12th. Wait, I think I put it in the wrong spot. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I put it in the wrong spot, and I was trying to be super organized to cut it down. Okay, so that is the 12th row. It is where we put the eyes. So the eyes are between 12th and 13th round. I don't know why I keep saying row today. So we are going to put the kitty cat's muzzle right in the middle of the eyes on the 12th round. Oh my gosh, this is so cute, y'all. I can't get over how cute this is. Okay, so what you want to do is just take some straight pins and pin the muzzle where you think you want it. And again, this is personal preference. This is where I put it, but you can put it anywhere you want. Okay, so once you are happy with the placement of the muzzle, we can go ahead and sew it to the head. And to do that, you're going to put a yarn needle onto your yarn. And I always, because we have it in the back, remember, we have the yarn in the back, so I just shove it into the head and then I come out another hole. Remember, between the stitches, the only time I allowed you to go through a stitch was for the mouth. We want to make sure we're going between the stitches. So we're just going to pull that through. And then you're going to systematically go through each stitch. So you're going to go right underneath the stitch. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see. Right underneath the stitch. There we go. Yeah, that's perfect. And then you're going to go to, so I came out this one, so you're going to go into the next stitch right here, and you're going to keep doing that. You're going to come out the side and then come up, come back through the same hole, that the same space that you are over here, come back and come up the next stitch, go into the next stitch, and just keep going around all the way around. After you have finished sewing your muzzle to your cute cat head, it is time to attach it to the body. So you just want to grab the body and you want to stuff it with stuffing and make it as firm as you like it. Then what you're going to do is you're going to decide which part you want facing forward. Now here is my last stitch, and I like to use this side right here as the front, because as you can see, it's rounded, and right here and here is where we did the increases when we were crocheting it. So it makes a perfect body. See, when I hold it like that, you can tell. So perfect front to the body, I should say. So, but you can totally put it anywhere that you like. So all you're going to do is take the head and make sure that it's facing good, like it's not like tilted down or tilted up or sideways. So you want to make sure it's straight on the body, and then you want to take straight pins. My hands aren't big enough to hold it all. And go through the top loop, top stitch I should say, of the body and then into the head. And I'll show you better once it's pinned a little bit. So you're going to go through the top loop of the body into the head. You're going to do that all the way around. And then once you have it pinned, you can decide if you like the placement of the head. You make sure that you sit the cat up, like right in front of you, and look at it. I like to put it like this and look at it dead on to see, because this cat is intended to sit. So once it has its legs on, whatever, and it's finished, you want to make sure that the cat's head doesn't look wonky and irritate you forever. So once you have your head pinned exactly where you want it, you're just going to take this crazy long tail that we left on the body, and you're going to insert it into the first stitch of the body. And you're going to insert it into the head, and you're going to have it come out into one of the holes somewhere else in the head and between the stitches. So come out like this hole between the stitches, and then pull it and go back into the same space between the stitches, and then come out the next stitch. You're going to repeat that, and then go into the next stitch, pull it out up here, and then come back in, and then come out the next stitch. And you're going to do that all the way around the neck to secure the head to the body. Once you have sewn your body to your head, we are ready to move on to the ears. I have gone ahead and already marked where I'm going to put the ears, and that is at round 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 right there. So I have went ahead and marked those so I know where they are. And right now she looks like a little bumblebee with little antenna, or antennae, I guess. So what you're going to do is take one of your ears, and what I like to do is take the tail and put a yarn needle on it, and I like to go into the stitch that's right beside your last stitch and then pull it through. So that way it makes it a little bit more even to sew. And this is going to be the back of the ear, and this is going to be the front of the ear. And what I like to do is take this ear, make it flat, and then fold it in half, like so. Okay, and what we're going to do is we are going to pin this to the head starting at round 4, where I have this teal colored pen. 1, 2, 3, 4, so right here. Okay, and then I'm going to pin this side. And again, once you pin it, look at it, decide where you want it. If you don't like the placement that I'm suggesting, put it somewhere else. This is your creation, so you can put it absolutely anywhere you want. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. I love when I start sewing and it starts coming together and I'm like, oh my gosh, it looks like a cat. Just don't like this side right now. But like, that tickles me. So you want to pin it, and you want to look at it from the side and make sure that you feel like it's centered in the middle. And then you want to look like this, and mine I feel like is a little bit, I shouldn't have pinned it so hard, is a little bit forward, and I don't like that, so we're going to move that a little bit back. So I just like to play with the ears, and of course you don't get the full picture until you have both of them on. So again, I've already pulled the thread through the stitch beside it, so I'm going to smush it and fold it And then I'm going to place it on the cat's head in round 4. And you'll see me recounting like 12 times. Because I like things to look right. I do not like unstitching body parts. It is not fun. So I try to make sure it's in the right place before I sew. Although I have torn apart a lot of things in my life. So if you don't like it, even if you sew it, you can still take it off. It just takes a lot of work and patience. Okay, we're gonna see what we think. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. Oh my gosh, that's so adorable. So once you're happy with the placement of your ears, you can go ahead and use the tails attached to them and sew them to the head. And all you want to do is take your yarn, go through the front, the back, the front, and then into the head. And you're going to do that. So you're going to go through both layers of the ears, then into the head. So you can go through the back, the front, come out the front, and then go into the head, and just repeat the process for both of the ears. After you have sewn your ears onto your super cute kitty, you can take a moment and reflect about how adorable this is turning out. Then we can move on to the arms. I like to place the arms right underneath the head, and actually it's like the head and body seam line right here. And I like to make sure that they are centered from front to back. So I just shove them in the groove, and then I pin them. And just like with the ears, I like to play with them a lot before I sew them together. So that way I can make sure they're exactly where I want them to be, and that they're even with each other. Because ripping body parts off of a crocheted animal is not fun. Trust me, I know from experience. So once you have the first one pinned and you like where the placement is, you're just going to pin the next one. And then what you want to do is make sure that these arms are even. I'm going to shove this in. Free up my hands, maybe. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to take the center of the animal that I'm doing and turn it so that I can see if the arms look level. Like obviously that doesn't. So then I play with them and then I pin them and I make sure that they're even on top too. So that way one arm isn't like here and this arm is here, because then that would look wonky. So we don't want that. So you just need to play with it and then pin it where you want it and then sew it to the body. And then when you're sewing, you want to make sure to not go through this top layer. You only want to be sewing through the bottom layer to the body, because if you come up, you can come up through the arm, but then you need to go back down into the same exact hole, because if you don't, you go into another stitch, it's going to create all these little dimples and pulls as you sew it to the body. So if you come out the top of the arm, come out, then go back into the exact same stitch, and then inside go at an angle and go into a different stitch down below. And then you can just sew the arms onto the body, and then we can move on to the next step. Once you have finished sewing your arms to your cat, you can start sewing your legs. So you want to grab your legs and then you want to pin them to the body. Now, typically I put them at about round 11 of the body, counting from the bottom up. And then I place them a little bit further than the arms, you can see. Hopefully you can tell. So this is about where I put them. So I just pin them and then I do the other one. But the most important thing about the legs is you want to make sure that you're not further than the body, otherwise it won't sit right, and that they're even with each other. So when you're looking at them, that they're even, so that way when you sew them on, that she can sit without any help. I love that she can sit on a shelf or a desk. So you just want to make sure that you sew the legs on evenly. So once you have your legs placed and pinned, you can go ahead and sew them on. Once you have finished sewing your legs on your kitty, we're going to flip your kitty over, And then at round 7 of the body, counting from the bottom up, we are going to sew this super cute tail. I like to put my tail a little bit askew as so, but of course you could always do it straight up and down. You do want to make sure that before you sew it together that you sit the cat up and make sure that the tail isn't underneath the body where it's going to sit. But once you're sure of the placement, go ahead and sew your tail to the back of the body. Once you have finished sewing the tail to your kitty, the last step is to put the bow onto the kitty. Of course, if you don't want a bow on your kitty, then you're done. But if you do, add the bow to the cat, either on the right side or the left side, or it'd even be cute right in the middle. So go ahead and sew the bow onto your kitty. Once you have sewn the bow to your kitty's head, she is complete and she is ready to be gifted or to sit on a shelf looking super adorable. As always, if you enjoyed this video tutorial, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the It's So Karini YouTube channel. And be sure to visit me at itsokarini.com for more sewing and crochet tutorials. So until next time, go make something amazing.